So today we're celebrating Saint Mark the Evangelist. The Evangelist, now this is kind of a hard word, but the Evangelist is, we call him the Evangelist because he wrote one of the Gospels. Who can tell me what we mean by the word gospel? Yes?
Kind of like the Bible.
Well, it's a part of the Bible, and it's a part of the Bible that tells a particular story. What story do we hear about in the gospel?
Jesus.
Exactly. In the gospel, we hear the story of Jesus. So the Bible, there's a lot of different books in the Bible. How many gospels do we have in the Bible? Well, there's one gospel, that's good, but how many accounts of the gospel do we have?
4.
4 gospels. Very good. Everybody's very awake and very smart this morning. So I'm proud of you. Some of you are more awake than I am right now. Okay, so today we're hearing about Saint Mark. So he wrote the second gospel, right? Because we have 4 gospels. Does anybody know the names of the 4 gospels? We got somebody way back here. This will be impressive.
St. Paul.
Well, St. Paul is really important, and he does a lot to share with us the faith, and he talked about Jesus a lot, but he actually didn't write any of the Gospels that we have in the Bible.
Holy Spirit.
Well, the Holy Spirit is important. Yes, he's the one who inspires everybody who writes in the Bible, but these are 4 names, right? Let's see if we can get them over on this side.
Paul, Matthew, Mark, and John.
Okay, so this was pretty good. So Matthew, Mark, then we have another one, the third one, and then John, right? So we're missing one. Who are we missing?
Peter.
Peter's involved with Mark, but no, it's not the third gospel. Luke, very good. So we have these 4 gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So this is very good. You guys know a lot about the Bible. In St. Mark, the evangelist, the writer of the gospel that we're celebrating today, he has a very famous uncle, one of the apostles. We actually have already heard his name in some of the answers this morning, some of the mistaken answers. But does anybody know who is the uncle of St. Mark and who probably taught him a lot about Jesus?
Matthew.
Matthew is important, but no, that's not his uncle. So this is the first pope that we're talking about. This was Mark's uncle. Paul. Okay, we really like Paul, but no, Paul's not the one. Okay, let's see if we go a little further back here.
Pope Francis.
Okay, so Pope Francis is our pope now, but 2,000 years ago he wasn't there. Okay, the first pope.
Peter.
Saint Peter, right? Very good. So Mark learned a lot about Jesus from Peter, because what do we hear about in today's gospel? Today's gospel, Jesus says, go out into all the world and preach the gospel. And the gospel is the good news. So all of the disciples did this, right? And so Peter, he would go and he would preach to people, and a lot of times Mark was there. And so he was listening, and he was probably taking some notes. And so he got to know a lot about Jesus. And so then he wrote down his gospel. And it's one of the great things that we learn from St. Mark, because he has this very strong exhortation at the end of the gospel that asks all of us to go out and preach the gospel, right? So just like all of the apostles did, and all of the evangelists, so we have the evangelists Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of the first apostles as well. Paul, who we mentioned several times this morning, he was somebody who really wanted to spread the good news. But then we do that as well, right? We do that when we talk about Jesus. We do that when we are listening to our teachers and to our parents. right? All of this as well are ways that we can help and spread the gospel. And it's something we do very especially when we come to Mass, because I know that sometimes it can be hard. We come into the church, we have to sit in the same place, we stand, we kneel, we do all these different movements. We try to remember the responses. But this is a great way that we too are saying, Jesus, I love you. Because when we come to Mass, that's basically what we're saying. We're saying, Jesus, I love you. What do we say when we come to Mass? Like, what does that mean? Jesus, I love you. Right? So that's something we're going to be doing during this whole Mass. And if sometimes we get a little distracted and it gets a little bit hard to pay attention, just remember, Jesus, I love you, and that's why I'm here. And that's a great way for each one of us to go out into the whole world and spread the gospel. Okay, so we're going to keep praying during this Mass. You can think if there's any intention that you have, maybe for your parents or one of your siblings, or there's some friend at school that needs special help. Well, during this Mass, we can pray for this person in a very special way. And during the whole Mass, what we're thinking is, Jesus, I love you. Okay? Is that a deal? Yeah. If you didn't say anything, that means yes. Okay.